you're having a parent, it's 3:10 now, and this is our schedule. We're going to begin our last session to get a glimpse of Unification Thought, to understand your mind and your heart, understand Abanim and Amanim, understand ourselves so that we can do better, we can be better. Please receive this last session as our offering of filial piety and of gratitude. I report in the name of Servito, my central family, and all our central families here at Legend. Okay. All right. So, this last session, I wanted to shed a little light on things related to the third blessing, and then also conclude a little bit about the theory of education, because for me the theory of education is very much like the conclusion chapter in Divine Principle. It summarizes a lot of things, and it's a kind of a call to action, because we are educators. That's really what we do. We teach, either by word or by example, both. This is how we change the world by teaching. So, I'll go to the theory of art, and you might think that the theory of art is for sculptors and painters, but it's not. It's about creativity. It's about dominion. That's what it's about. So, although there are many sections of it that are really wonderful for artists. I'm sorry. I'll just start with it. This is an interesting phrase that has always surprised me. And it says, culture refers to the totality of the various kinds of human activity, including economy, education, religion, science, and art, among which the most central is art. In other words, art is the essence of culture. So that's surprising, because I would have thought that we would say that the essence of culture would be, or the most central would be religion. But I think I'm thinking from a restorational point of view. But I think what Abanim and Omanim are thinking of is from an original point of view. And from that point of view, the most central human activity, the essence of culture, is actually art. So for those of you who are creative people, and actually everybody is, I'll get to that shortly, this is, I think, particularly important ideas. So what I wanted to talk about, the theory of art, interestingly enough, is one of the longest chapters in Unification Thought. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I believe it has 10 or 11 chapters. Because what I'm omitting here from our study is the survey and the counter-proposal to other philosophies. By the way, if you do want to study Unification Thought, I would highly, highly recommend that you go to unification-thought.org. Let's see if it's here. Here it is, right? Unification-thought.org. And what's available, that's the website of the Unification Thought Institute here in America. And you can download the PDF of the Unification Thought book, which I'm teaching from. But also, what's even better is you can take an online course with Dr. Claude Perrotet. And Dr. Claude Perrotet, I think, is one of the best teachers of Unification Thought in the world. And the reason is his PhD is in Immanuel Kant. He did his PhD, a thesis on Immanuel Kant. So Kant is one of the great able-type philosophers who's mentioned in the Divine Principle. But also Dr. Pereltet is that he actually reads Korean. So he's not reading the English translation of Chinese or English. He can read Korean directly. So his ability to convey the meanings is very deep. It's very remarkable. And the other thing that I appreciate about Dr. Pereltet is that he doesn't only get unification thought here, he gets it here. He really gets it here. He's a person of deep heart and deep love. So, and this self-paced course is available to you for $40. You know, so if you want to go into depth, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you check that. You go to this website, unification-thought.org, and you'll see there's a link for an online course. It's self-paced. So you can take it at your own speed. It used to be a course that was taught at University of Bridgeport. It was $1,800 because it's a 3-credit course. But so many people wanted to take it but couldn't do the $1,800 that he decided to put up this website and put it on there, and you can do it for $40. So I wanted to tell you about that because people always tell me they want to read the book, they want to get the book, they want to study more. I would recommend that. Theory of art. I wanted. Okay, these are my little takes on art. I'm going to talk about it for maybe 15 minutes, but it's an enormous chapter. But as a design major in New York City, I was always hearing about beauty. You know, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. And you know, people have all different definitions of beauty, and some of those definitions are pretty hard, pretty terrible. But you know, and you go to the museums and you see things that are classified as art. Some are truly amazing, and others are like, wow, it's really miserable. Anyway, I was interested to see Father's definition of what is beauty, and that has been such a guide for me my whole life. What makes beauty? And so, what is the element of beauty? The first one is harmony between the physical elements, and that means the lighting, the space, the color. If you're talking about food, it would be the colors, the flavor, the balances of hot and cold, all of those kind of things. So the harmony of the elements. I like to think of, you know, modern films. If you think of films that have harmony of the elements, there are, you know, there's many films that are coming out of Hollywood where the external harmony is amazing. You know, the lighting is amazing, the music is amazing, the staging and the three, you know, it's just the most amazing harmony of the elements. But the harmony of the external elements is only part of it. What's the other element that constitutes beauty? And this is the interesting thing. In Father's point of view, there's only two. Wow, that's a relief. There's only two things I need to look for to see if something is beautiful. And the other thing is the purpose. What is the purpose of that piece of art? What is the purpose of that film? What is the purpose of that piece of music? What is the purpose of that garment of clothing? What is the purpose of that gourmet meal? You know, what is the purpose? And this is what can tell you if something is actually beautiful or simply well executed. So now it's very clear to me when something is brilliantly executed, but it's not beautiful. Because the purpose may be very self-centered or very wrong even, very corrupting. So now I can tell the difference between when something is truly beautiful or when it is simply amazingly well done, right? So there are, you know, films that I can think of that are amazingly well done, but boy, oh boy, the acting is great, the music is really great, everything is great, but the message and the purpose and how it leaves you is really, really not healthy, not good. Same with music. Music, I'm a musician, amateur musician, and I write, so I'm very sensitive to not only the music, but also the lyrics, you know, and I'm really, sometimes I'll listen to a song and I really like the musicians and they're really, really good, and then I hear what they're singing and I think, oh my God, I gotta get that out of my, you know, that's poisoning me, you know, with that message. So anyway, so I just wanted to share that about what constitutes beauty. Only two things: the harmony of the elements, the physical elements, and then the purpose. So I could talk about that longer, but I just want to leave that out to you so you can distinguish when a new film comes out or a new book comes out or a new dance or a new ballet or something. Those are the criteria that are given to us in unification thought. Harmony of elements and the purpose. Okay? So that's one thing I wanted to share about about that. The next thing I wanted to talk about are what's necessary for creativity. All right. Now, the purpose of creativity. I always, let's see. I went to High School of Art and Design in New York City, Manhattan. Then I went to City College for architecture for 1 year, and then I went to 4 years of design in Pratt Institute. So that's a total 9 years of study. So what did I learn about the purpose of art and creativity from 9 years of study in design and architecture? I learned that the purpose of art is self-expression. That's what it's all about. That's really what I learned. And that is not Father's point of view at all. It's not about self-expression, and this is really something. So look at this. I'm going to share with you the dual aspect of purpose. So the purpose of any being has two parts: the internal and the external. And the internal is the purpose for the whole, and it's the purpose to give joy to God and others. So that's why we create. That's the original reason why God created, for the sake of others. Look at this universe. He didn't create that just for himself to enjoy it. That was created for others, for his beloved ones, to delight in and to be fascinated in. That was the motivation. So what is the original motivation for creating? It's for others. So creation in art is the activity whereby the artist manifests value for the subject, God and humankind. So a young person, when they write a song, when a young person make a dance, when someone does architecture, when someone does a banquet, it's not the original purpose should not be self-expression. It should be to give love and joy to others. That's the original reason for creating, the act of creativity. Can you understand that? Right? And then the other aspect of purpose is for individual aspects, so I can enjoy it myself, and that's what appreciation is for. So when we appreciate something, creation is the activity where the artist manifests value for the subject, God and humankind, whereas appreciation is the activity whereby an appreciator finds and enjoys beauty and value in an object. Both actions are ultimately derived from God's purpose of creation. Of course God enjoyed everything He created, but that's not the reason He created it. The main reason, this is the reason He created it, but not as important as the fact that He created it for others. So this is a very important thing, I think, to really realize. Creativity is not about art is not for self-expression. It's for two things. We create for others and we appreciate for ourselves. You understand the balance there? If there was a guitar here, I would play a song for you. If God doesn't want me to, I don't say a guitar. All right. Okay. All right. So the next thing I wanted to share was about the attitude when you create something, and that is it's called the subject requisites, requirements for creativity. And this, I think, I would like to share with you very quickly. Okay, so in order to create something, the motivation, you need a motive, you need a theme, you need subject matter, and then you need a plan. But all of those always should be for the purpose of the whole. Okay, that's easy to understand. Now, this is it's called object consciousness. This is the attitude that requisites for the subject. It means the attitude of the artist. They should have an attitude of object consciousness. Now, this is what it says. Creation is an activity whereby the artist in the position of object gives joy to the subject, namely God and the whole. For that, the artist must establish a sense of object consciousness. The attitude of wanting to give joy to God, the highest subject, and to manifest the glory of God is the culmination of object consciousness. The reason this is important is because all my life in design school, I thought that, what is an artist? What is a performing artist? An artist is subject. I am subject. You know, I am creating this sculpture. I am making this skyscraper. I'm designing this thing. I'm the subject. If I get on stage in performing arts and I have this whole auditorium or I have this whole stadium and I'm on the stage and all the lights are on me, I am the subject. You know, that's okay. I'm exaggerating, you know, but that is what the impression I got from all my years of study of design as an artist. And the thing is, you can see that young artists, they have to psych themselves into believing, you know, that you know, I'm really special. I'm really, and if nobody understands me, that's their loss. You know, because I'm amazing. You know? And they have to really psych themselves into believing in themselves, especially if other people don't understand what they're doing, right? I have to be subject, you know, and I have to defend my subjectivity and my creativity and my brilliance and all that. But here, Father is saying, Unification Thought is saying, the object consciousness of a true artist, the consciousness of a true artist is to be object. And to be object, giving joy to the subject, namely God in the whole. Now, I thought about this, and very suddenly, I thought think of a conductor in an orchestra, right? You have this big 120-piece orchestra, you have this conductor, and the conductor is, you know, telling everybody what to do. He's painting, and they are listening to him and watching him, and he's making them do everything. So you would think that the conductor is the subject, right? Obviously he's the subject. But then, if you really think a little bit more about it, the conductor has that power because he is the object to the score, the composition, and the composer. Can you understand that point? He's the object. He has put himself into the position where I say, what is Beethoven trying to say? What is Bach trying to say? What do they feel? Why did they write this passage that way? How do they want it to sound? What is it saying? What is it? They're putting themselves in the object position. Do you understand? They're trying to understand the composer and the piece. So they're in an object position, and that's where their power as subject comes from. Can you understand what I'm saying? So this is, you know, I could say, look at Abanim. Where does Abanim's power come from? Omanim, where does her power come from? Because, you know, subject consciousness. No, we know that their power, their authority comes because they have been in tears before Heavenly Parent. They have object consciousness. That's where that power comes from, you know. And I would say surely the same thing for Reverend Yang or for Pastor George, you know, for any of the elders here. They know that their power comes from, you know, any of the lecturers. Nate was my lecturer many years ago, decades ago. You know, they know that the power comes from being the object to God. And if you don't, then if you think the power is coming from you, you leave the movement, is what happens, you know, because you think you're so great. You know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway, this is interesting. I'm a guitar player, and so I saw this in Guitar Player magazine. Whatever you're standing in life, the most important thing is behaving in ways that help other people. It's the same with music. I am a servant of the music, and that makes me your servant, really. I have the responsibility to do the best I can with the gifts I have. And if I get caught up in ego, I'll lose everything. It'll burn, and that's a guarantee. Now, this is a rock star who went through the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll thing, eventually became Christian, and this is his realization, you know, that I am your servant, I am the object. This is really something, it's pretty cool. Now, Unification Thought says there's 5 attitudes of object consciousness, and I would like to just share those. Number 1, the attitude of comforting God's historical sorrow. The greatest pieces of art want to give comfort to God. They also want to comfort the heroes of the restoration. They also want to express the deeds of those who are persecuted and righteous. And they want to, great art wants to encourage hope and encourage confidence. And great art wants to show the beauty of nature and the mystery of nature. I have a couple of examples. These are, you won't be surprised. This comforts God's historical sorrow. This is Johann Sebastian Bach. He says the aim and final end of all music should be none other than the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul. That's object consciousness, man. And I love his stuff. I'm not even, a trained classical musician. I'm a rocker, actually. Folk and blues, but I love his stuff touches me. And then I figure, that's why it touches me, because the God loves God. Where there is devotional music, God is always at hand with His gracious presence. I have always kept one end in view, namely, with all goodwill to conduct a well-regulated church music to the honor of God. That's Johann Sebastian Bach. So, Comfort Restoration's Heroes. This is another one. This is by Michelangelo. And if you know DP, if you know the story of Jesus, and you can feel Jesus' heart, and you really contemplate this sculpture, it's a profound piece. It's just beyond words, and so that's a piece that is a great comfort, I think, to have you parent, a great comfort to Jesus. Express the deeds of history's persecuted righteous. Well, these are movies, about persecuted righteous. One about Gandhi, one about Martin Luther King. I closed my application. Sorry, I'll start it up again. Encourage hope and confidence. Let's see if this will play. This I think, really does encourage hope and confidence. Let's see. It's not playing. Oh, there it is.
It's me. It's your Sam. Don't you know you're Sam? I can't do this, Sam. I know. It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow, even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
The reason I want to, of course, that's Lord of the Rings, and as far as encouraging open confidence, I think that that scene really does that, where Frodo feels like, he's lost his vision of what he's fighting for. What are we fighting for? And his servant Sam says that there's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for. That there is some good in this world. And I feel like through that film, God in heaven were trying to tell us, and other people who care about the situation of the world, that we really should not stop fighting. We really should not give up. If there's anything to be learned from the principle itself, is that as long as you don't give up, God can claim that condition somehow. But as soon as the enemy psychs you out and makes you feel that you've lost the battle, then really, then we really lose. I feel like, I'm going off topic here, but there's a business book that was very popular in New York a few years ago. It's called The Art of War. And it was written by a Chinese philosopher named Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu said that when you conduct the art of war, the way to defeat your enemy is to psych them out before they even get to the battlefield, demoralize them, make them disunite with each other. And that is the strategy that is painted for us in the divine principle, especially when you look at the stories of Noah and Abraham and Adam and Moses and Jesus and the parallels in history. We're being shown the battle plan of the enemy, how he makes us disunite and how he demoralizes us, and that's how he wins. So I think one of the things, the value of looking at the parallels in history and the principles of restoration is to realize that that's one of the major weapons of the enemy. If I can be demoralized, if I can make disunity, if I can be made to disunite, the battle is won for the enemy. You see, so I think films and art that encourages hope and confidence and a resolve, to not give up, to not be psyched out, to not, give up in here. That kind of art is really, and a lot of times I'm inspired by the songs that are chosen. There's this really nice song that I've been hearing for years now. I won't give up on us, even if,
Yeah.
You know that song. Many of you know that song, and that's the kind of thing. I will not give up. And there's a lot of songs that are like that give hope and confidence. Another thing is inspire awe of of nature's beauty and mystery. So Unification Thought says this, adds this, and this is very interesting. Good works of art are created only if the artist has a fundamental attitude of serving the whole and pleasing others. Such people receive a great deal of cooperation from the spirit world. Now, this is also something to really think about. When you have a good idea for a business, when you have a good idea for a song or a painting, and you have the right motivation, then people in that field, in that industry, in that area will come to you and they'll want to work through you because they're in the spirit world and they can't do it anymore. But if you have an interest and you have ability, those people, really able type scientists, governors, artists, musicians, whatever, they are eager to work with those who have the right heart. And this actually is a link to a TED Talk, you know. Oh, no, is it? It's called that show. I thought I had linked this to a TED Talk, you know, about genius and the spirit world, but I got confused. A senior moment, excuse me. But anyway, that was, yeah, I guess what my contention was that good works of art are created only if the artist has a fundamental attitude of serving the whole and pleasing others. So that's it. Oops. I just wanted to share that. That was, yeah, my son and I playing violin at one of our friends, Bamini, you know. But you know, we pray really hard before we offer the music, because we know that God wants to give love through us to the people who listen. So we pray very, very hard together to be a channel. We try to be object, okay? We try to be object to Heavenly Parent and object to Heavenly Parent's love in order to, you know, to pull that off. So anyway, that's this. What I'm basically trying to say is this theory of art is not something for me that's just an intellectual exercise. This stuff really makes a difference to me in my life. And that's why I'm sharing it. Now, let's see. Oh, unity in art. Yeah, this is something I think is really important too. And this is the last thing I'll share about the theory of art. In art, there should be a unity of creation and appreciation. There should be a unity of content and the form that it's expressed through. And there should be a unity of universality and individuality. And let me explain what that is, because it's such a cool, important idea. Now here is universality and individuality. Culture will be formed through a universal spirituality and expression of art on a higher dimension, while at the same time preserving the essences of different national cultures, each with its own individuality. I had been under the impression for a long time that there's only one heavenly culture. But what Unification Thought is saying is that there is a true culture, but we should preserve the essences of different national cultures, each with its own individuality. And then it goes on further to say, if it is our aim to construct a new culture, we must pay attention to art, for art is the essence of culture. First, we must protect the cultural heritage we already have. It includes architecture, sculpture, music, painting, industrial design, and so on. When we consider such things, we feel responsible not only to inherit our own culture, but to keep it alive. And on this foundation, develop a new culture. This new culture will come about through the integration of the best elements within the cultures of various nations and racial groups. So, keeping our national cultural heritage is a sine qua non for building a new culture. This means that we should really understand where we come from and be proud of where we come from. If you're Japanese, if you're Swahili, if you're Greek, if you're Italian, if you're Portuguese, if you're British, if you're Japanese, you understand what this is saying? This is saying that there are elements of your culture that are true and that are beautiful. So we have to inherit our own national and racial culture. We have to keep that alive, and on that foundation develop a new culture. The new culture it comes about by the integration of the best from the best from other cultures. Can you understand? You know, there's so many things from other cultures: clothing, music, dance, things that I so much enjoy from other cultures. And that's what Unification Thought says about this new culture. It's not throwing everything out the door and making only one new thing, but it's by filtering our own racial, our own national cultures, inheriting the best, filtering out the bad stuff, and inheriting the best and bringing that to the table. Can you understand? This makes a vibrant, beautiful culture of all kinds of variety. I like to say that this is about the unity of diverse things. It's not about uniformity. Can you understand the difference between the two? It's not about uniformity. It's about the unity of great variety and beautiful variety. So I thought that was really, really inspiring. I really think it's something that we really should think about. Think about where you come from. Think about where your roots are. Think about the great accomplishments of your own culture. Who wants to get rid of the music of Bach? I don't want to. I don't want to. Who wants to get rid of Mediterranean food? I don't want to. I like Mediterranean food. Who wants to get rid of the cool way that African people dress in hot weather? They wear baggy linen, the breeze. I like that. I don't want to be wearing this in 100-degree weather, Anyway, so I thought that was really interesting about the theory of art, about universality. And the last thing I will share about the theory of art, let's see. All right, I'll do this very quickly. Types of beauty. Love and beauty are related, right? So there's 4 basic forms of love: parental love, conjugal love, sibling love, children's love. And so those are the types of beauties that exist. Parental beauty. When we look at nature or we look at art, we can see reflections: parental beauty, conjugal beauty, sibling beauty, children's beauty. And then of course there are variations of that: paternal beauty, maternal beauty, masculine beauty, feminine beauty, brotherly beauty, sisterly beauty, daughter's beauty, son's beauty. This is father's love, father's beauty. This is a song about a man whose daughter has fallen in love with a young boy who's about to who might die. So he's praying to God. So I wanted to show that because that's one example. I have other examples which we don't have time for, but this is an interesting way to look at the beauty in the world and to think that when I see a sunset, what am I looking at? What is touching me? Is that parental beauty? Is that fatherly beauty? Is that motherly beauty? Is that children's beauty? When I see a nature thing and I see the parents taking care of the cub or the cub playing, what is touching me? Is that child's beauty? Is that son's beauty? Is that daughter's beauty? Is that the wife's beauty? So that's an interesting way to look at things that move you, either in nature or in art. That these are the types of beauty that are related to the types of life. Okay, so that's all I'll say about the theory of art. The last thing that I will talk about to close this is the theory of I lost it. Let me just finish very quickly with the theory of education. The reason I chose this is because I feel like this is something I would like you to think about as we go out back into the world. Father's theory of education is that there are 3 goals of education, and basically they are the 3 blessings, because that's the purpose of life. So that's what education should be about. So therefore, there are three forms of education that correspond to helping a person achieve the education. That's how Unification Thought defines education. Education is the effort to guide children to resemble the divine image and the divine character. By realizing the three great blessings, man and woman come to inherit God's heart, God's logos and creativity, and they come to resemble God's nature. So that's what education is for. So then there are three corresponding forms of education, and those are the education of heart. Education of heart is the number one form of education. And education of heart is basically the education of God's, to help a child know God's heart. And so unification, or actually in DP, it says that, this is what DP says. Can we ever grasp the heart of God? The new expression of truth should be able to reveal the heart of God. His joy at the time of creation, his broken heart when he felt when humankind, his children, whom he could not abandon, rebelled against them, that's the fall, and his heart of striving to save them throughout the course of history. That's all restoration history. So that's what that's the kind of heart. So, and then the first blessing is such individual become temples of God, achieve complete oneness with Him. They experience the heart of God as if it were their own. This is the very core of the first blessing. How do you become one in mind? How does mind and body come together? It's not by an act of will. It's not by understanding truth. Your mind and body, our mind and body come together when you're in love with something or somebody. That's when mind and body come together. When you're in love with somebody, you can't help but think about that person. You act on that person's behalf. So, of course, Abanim and Omanim want us to love God above all. So, then that means that the most important form of education is the education of the heart, especially to understand these three hearts of God. The education for perfection of the individual, this is UT. In order for spirit, mind, and physical mind to become united, heart has to be the center, not will, not intellect. It's the heart that we love. It's necessary for us to experience God's heart and be united with it, so as to become persons who love God and all things the way God does. So this is nice in Chun Sung Gyam. You have to know the heart of God before creation, His heart during the process of creation, His grieving heart after the fall. You have to understand the sorrowful heart with which He has been leading human history toward restoration, and His heart of hope for a new world after restoration is completed. So the DP, this transformed my entire understanding of DP. I remember Hyojin once called me into his office and he asked me, what do you think of Father, what do you think of me, and what do you think of DP? And based upon this idea from Unification Thought, that the three hearts of God are actually what's taught in the Divine Principle. The Divine Principle teaches me about the heart of God at the creation. The Divine Principle teaches me about the heart of God in the fall, and the Divine Principle teaches me about the heart of culture and restoration. I told Yojin, I said, to me the Divine Principle is the greatest epic saga that ever was. It's the story of all their hopes and all the dreams they ever had. It's the story of the horrific tragedy that shattered all those hopes and all those dreams. And it's a story of that person's life picking up the pieces after they lost what they had hoped and dreamed and longed for. That's what the DP is to me. It's the greatest epic saga that ever was. You know, you want tragedy, you want treachery, you want... It's all there. It's all in the covers of that book. And that's where UT really helped me see beyond all of the facts of the DP into really the heart of the DP. So I think that's why the DP is an amazing book, is because there's nothing like it that reveals the heart of God, the heart of hope and expectation, the heart of grief and sorrow, and the heart of pain and the heart of suffering. You know, that's why Albanim was moved and Omanim was moved to do the things that they do and sacrifice the things they do. That's why Jesus was willing to sacrifice anything. That's why we made the choice to give up our lives, first gen, you know, because we were led to understand the heart of God. You see. So I do a whole seminar on this about looking at the DP from the heart of God, not just the facts. But this is, okay. So education of heart is the primary form of education. The next is education of norm, which is an education of ethics, what we just studied. That's the second form of education. It helps us fulfill the second blessing. And the third form of education is the education of dominion. Education of dominion. Yeah. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay, this is what we need to do. The field a person chooses varies upon, the person's preferences and aptitude. So we go to college and we can get individual education, physical, technical, intellectual education. We learn about the social sciences, technical, whatever our field of our career would be, we get technical training in that field. And then we get physical education as well. That's individualized for each individual person. But there's a universal education which every person needs to receive. And that's an education of heart and an education of ethics and moral. And that is something that we actually don't get in college. You spend so much money, in high school and in college and in master's, postgraduate work. You can be incredibly adept in your career and your profession, and you can be incredibly inept in your ethical relationships with other people, and especially your internal relationship with God. So, what I'm cautioning you, please, as you go to college, you will get individual education. You apply yourself and you'll get technical, intellectual, and you'll get even physical training. But you are the one who is responsible for your education of heart and your education of norm and ethics and morality. You're not going to get that in school. And if you don't take care of those two, you will become a person who is very highly skilled, who can make a lot of money, but you can't, this relationship will not be satisfying, and these relationships you make, especially romantic ones, you're on shaky ground. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So, we really need our community to understand this, that we send our young people to college, but we have to provide the education of heart, understanding the heart of God. We have to provide and make available the possibility of moral and ethical education, so that when they finally get their degree, they will not only have training in their skill, but they will also be ready to be amazing husbands and wives and amazing fathers and mothers and grandparents. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right, so the last thing I'll say, this is really interesting. When you apply these types of education, Father says that an education of heart will make a person of character. Father says, Unification Thought says that an education of norm will make a good citizen. And then Unification Thought says that education of dominion will produce a genius. And by genius, this is what Unification Thought says. Man is given creativity by heaven from birth. If someone develops his creativity to the full, he may be called a genius. Though some people are born crippled or intellectually handicapped, everyone nonetheless has the capacity to become a genius, because originally everyone is given boundless creativity. If any one of the three types of education is missing, a genius cannot appear. We need all three types: education of heart and ethics and morality, and then technical. So obviously, when Father uses the word genius, it's not in the sense that we're used to hearing it. Genius, in Western, means 1 in a million. A really gifted person. Everybody else is mediocre or below. What Father means when he talks about genius is this is interesting. Yeah. Okay. Chinese characters again. I hope this is real. Anyway, this is the Chinese character for genius. From the Chinese dictionary online. It means talent, gift, genius, talented, created. So it's made of two words. One is sky, heaven, God, celestial, and the other one is talent, ability. That's what Father means, that every child has genius. that every person has a God-given gift. This was my sermon this morning. So that is something to really, really remember and think about, and be sure about ourselves, and especially our children. So that's my quick summary. The end of providing an education of heart, an education of norm, and an education of dominion is unity of heart, because we love God, unity of thought, because we have the same ethical and moral standards, and action, creativity. Then we become enormously creative in whatever our field, our career is. And it's like a team moving forward, like a tsunami or a force of nature. So by these forms of education, that's why Alban created all the different projects that he did, because he's trying to unite the heart, he's trying to unite the thinking, the values, right? And he's trying to cooperative action towards the kingdom of heaven on earth. Okay. So, when I applied this theory of education as in college, I was enormously successful, because even though I was teaching web construction, because I had the heart that every one of my students, pray for my students. In Manhattan, some of my students had all kinds of lifestyles. Some of them, you can imagine college in Manhattan. There's a lot of young people with not so great lifestyles. It didn't matter. Because of this theory, I prayed for them all. I cared for them all. And that's why I did well. I remember one girl told me, what's your next class? I want to take a class. I don't care what it is, I want to take a class. So stuff like that, and I would get anyway. The reason I talk about unification thought is not because it's an interesting theory. The reason I talk about unification thought is actually I understand the way he operates, the way he sees things, and the way he does things. Once you understand the master, then you can replicate it. Can you understand? That's why the value of deeping. That's why the value of routine. You just watch somebody do amazing things and you don't know how they do it, then it's worthless. But once you have something that explains to you, this is how they're doing what they're doing, then you can not only replicate it, but you can teach others how to do it. You see? That's why this is useful. Okay. Thank you very much. 350 is discussion, 410 is Q&A. So we went right to our discussion time, and we would like to take a group photo. And then if you would please write something. I wish we had thought of this more. I kind of wanted to print out paper and I just totally forgot. But please, we need feedback from you. Pastor George or Adam, is there paper that folks can write on or not even? No, we didn't discuss. Okay. All right, can we at least get a group photo? No. Can we at least get a group photo? Yes? No?
Good photo.
Group photo? Yeah.
Group photo. Do you want one?
Group photo.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You want one right now?
Well, this is it. We have discussion or we have Q&A. We don't have time for both. We can do Q&A now or we can do discussion now, but after that, Q&A now. Okay, and then Q&A now and then group photo of Reverend Nancy. So let's do that. I'm sorry that we can't discuss, but I'll take a few questions now. So are there any questions about the theory of art? Yes, Michael.
What's your email address?
My email address is gservito, one word, gservito at unification-thought.org. So it's actually the URL of the website that I told you that has that class. It's unification-thought.org. And second question. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Michael suggested that I will post these questions on the website, and then you can go to that website and respond to them. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I should prepare that. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
One thing that seemed interesting, I was really struck by what you said about the establishing a new culture and not destroying the past. Is like what Chairman Mao did in China was trying to make the year zero and eliminate all of Chinese past history, and it's like the Taliban destroying so much of the past history. I'm just wondering how much of that's a part of the nature of evil. That it's, I'm the new beginning, I'm better than all the participants, so just wipe out the past? Or?
I think it's totally fallen archangelic behavior. Yeah. So the destruction of all the beautiful things that has come out of the original minds of people over the ages is just... Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Yeah, this presentation or the Unification Thought is being translated in other languages or only English?
Has this been translated in other languages or only in English? I know it's in Japanese. I don't honestly know if it's in Spanish. I have no idea. I can't answer. I don't know. People are talking so much about unification thought. Even Omanen is not encouraging us to look up unification thought. But I think it has a place, especially in Chang-Yoga, as we go forward. I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't have an answer for your question. I saw another hand. Yes.
So it just makes sense to me that God must have known that all so what, it wouldn't have occurred, it seemed like you got children and we only learned to do these things from these events of tragedy and pain. So could we have been able to remain as far as initially in God's heart without the question?
I think we sure could have. We should have had. The question was, the fall has really helped us understand God's heart. Could we have understood God as well without the fall? And my understanding is that absolutely we could have understood the heart of God before the fall. If you look at nature, there are animals have tragedies. They experience very difficult things, but it's not because of intentional, malevolent evil of people of them doing it to each other. That's a different thing. So there would have been accidentals. I'm sure there would have been accidental injuries. There might have been even accidental deaths in the ideal world without the fall. There would have been heartbreak. But it's a different kind of thing. Not this intentional evil. It's directed by a malevolent force. That reminded me of a little quote. Theory of education. This is something from the education of heart. This is for Dr. Lee, Unification Thought walks us through God's heart in it says here, understanding God's heart. Through an education of heart, children will come to understand three kinds of God's heart. as described above, especially the heart of God in the course of the providence restoration. Therefore, I will introduce an understanding of God's heart as it was during the courses of Adam's family, Noah's family, Abraham's family, Moses, and Jesus' course. And so, in just that, he walks us through Adam's family, Noah's family, Abraham's family, Moses' course, Jesus' course. Now, if you know DP, that's a lot of material, a couple of hundred pages of that. But he reduces it just to this, just the emotional narrative of how God felt during that. And here's one thing that your question reminded me. This is really poignant. God was, of course, aware that there was a possibility of the human fall. Even so, since God is the God of heart and hope, his desire for human beings to succeed and not to fall was incomparably stronger than his fear that they might fall. The same thing can be said of the offerings by Cain and Abel. Since God's expectation for the offering was so great and his hope was so strong, he virtually ignored the possibility of their failure in the offering. Here we can distinguish a difference between heart and reason. God's impulse of heart is so strong as to override reason. We do things all the time that are risky because the taste of success is intoxicating. This is far beyond that. See how innocent Heavenly Parent was? Heavenly Parent never knew that it could hurt so much and cause so much damage. Or even if they did know, the taste of the possibility was too much. There's gems like this all over the place, in Unification Thought. Now, really, please do read Chan. Please do read Pyongyang. Please do read Pyongyang. Because what's in the Black Book is 1966 material. That's what's in the Black Book. It's true that it was updated in English in an expression, but the content is from 1966. And Father said, I will teach you more as the years go by. And that's what he did. So that's the reason it's important to read Chunsangyang and Pyongyang and Chunsangyang, because there's stuff in there that is not in the Black Book. You know that if you've been reading. There's stuff in there that's really, it's amazing. And so keep current. The DP is an amazing book. But there's more as well. Any questions? Okay, the last one.
Okay, I've got one. This is, you talked about artistic creativity, and you talked about the difference between individual-centered creativity, where the artist just wants to get a bang out of expressing themselves. And you talked about heavenly creativity as you're really being an object to God. You want to please others. And I guess this is a personal question, because I create, I write, and I perform. And I've definitely experienced a sort of personal bang out of getting something exactly the way that I envisioned it. It doesn't mean that everybody else enjoys it. But I've also experienced some of the other kind. But as an artist, can you share about the difference between experiencing that kind of personal satisfaction and the more heavenly, open satisfaction? Like, how does that feel to you? Because I think there's this part of my mind that resists, like, oh, if you just want to please God, then you're not going to get anything out of it. Like, God's going to get a huge bang, and you're just going to go, well, okay, there it was.
Okay, great. Yeah. So before the church, because I love guitars so much, I used to make guitars. So now I made a bunch of guitars before the movement, and I still have my favorite one. It's beautiful. It's made out of African mahogany and Alaskan spruce and Brazilian rosewood and Honduras mahogany, and it's lacquered so you can really see the wood. Man, I tell you, when I finished that guitar, I slept with it. I had it in my bed. And I enjoyed the way it felt, the way it looked. That was enormous. But now, in perspective of the principle, I can realize that my joy was I was appreciating my own art. I was getting a huge kick out of it. But now, I remember Father once told us, when you make beautiful things, your heart becomes beautiful. So like now when I use that guitar to play, I really, it's not, the joy comes from giving to brothers and sisters and letting God come through me and God use me. And then yeah, I get a rush. I get in the zone, you know. Mind and body come together. I'm high as a kite, you know, when that happens. And I'm experiencing, creating for the sake of others, and I'm appreciating, you know, the experience of mind and body unity. So it's totally exhilarating. The first time that happened to my son, when we did a duet for family camp, we prayed together. We asked God to use us to give love to the brothers and sisters in family camp. And then at the end of the song, he was like shaking and like on the verge of tears. And my wife was really, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? I told her, leave him alone. He's having a profound experience. You know, this is really deep. Let it be. And that's what it was. Is he had that incredible rush. It's mind-body unity experience. It's power flowing through you, and his own, you know, his own. So I really sometimes in longer workshops I'll play a little clip of Chariots of Fire. If you remember that movie, it's a beautiful movie, a true story about a missionary who became an Olympic runner, and he won gold in the Olympics. And then he went back to China, and then he died in China as a missionary. But there's one scene where he has to explain to his sister to let him train for the Olympics and take a break from missionary life. And he says to her, I know God made me for a purpose. He made me for China, but God also made me fast. And when I run, I feel His pleasure. And there's a beautiful scene of him running, you know, and just destroying the competition at the Olympics. And because he's not a trained runner, as he's winning, he's running like that. You know, and the reason he's running like that is because he is with God. He is in the zone, man. You know, he is intoxicated. He is gone. You know, he's not on earth. He's practicing his ability to the ultimate experience, and he's feeling just incredible connectedness. But when I run, I feel God's pleasure. God made me fast. So there's I have another whole talk about that. You know, conditional offering. Okay, thank you very much for that question. So I would like to ask somebody else to close our day and include our offering. Does anybody feel inspired to offer? Yes? Yes? Go for it. Okay, thank you.
All right, brothers and sisters, please join me in prayer. Dearest, most beloved Heavenly Parent and our true parents, heaven, earth, humankind, we come before you humbly with absolute gratitude and thanks to report to you that we have received lecture from our brother, Reverend Gerry Servito, as part of the special grace condition. And Lord, we really hope that you can take our offerings and rejoice in it, Lord, and feel joy from our attendance, and feel joy from our gathering here as a family, as a unification family, still trying, even after so many decades of so many hardships, still trying to educate ourselves, to gather together. And now in this new church building, Lord, we proclaim, we declare that we will start fresh with this condition. True Mother has given us the greatest gift that we could possibly ever ask for, that we don't even deserve. And yet we are in this room, in this building. God, thank you so much. Even now, we can receive this lecture here in this building. It wouldn't be so easy or so possible. But yet, True Mother's gift has really given us a miracle. We're not going to waste it, God. This is our promise to you. We're not going to waste it. We love you, God. We love you so much. So with that, I report this prayer and this day, and all of our names here, and my name, out of just a godly, central blessed family.